Animal services today. I swear, sheriff's boys are out there shooting cannons. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's stop and go, what?
Oh, I don't know.
Somebody had a cannon out there.
I've seen the sheriff today.
Did you? I see him right now.
I see him right now.
I see him right now.
Well, I seen him earlier.
That's him right there.
Right over,
Looks like
in a white shirt.
In a white
there,
shirt.
Raised his hand. Such a polite guy too.
Like a holiday, you know? Here, you know?
Hey, remember?
Here we go.
Call to order the committee of the whole administration meeting Thursday, September 2nd, 2021 at 6:01 PM. Roll call. Carl Johnson. Sherry Gieske.
Here.
Jonathan Van Laar. Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Steve Schabacher.
Here.
Jeff Carlisle.
Here.
Ryan Curry. Bill Robertson.
There.
Sherry Bartelt is here.
Yeah.
Sure. Rodney Riley. Here. Freddie De La Trinidad.
That's Sherry's phone.
Of course it is.
I forgot.
Item 3, approval for the minutes of August 5th, 2021.
Move to approve.
And August 12th, 2021, finance meeting minutes. Moved by Sherry Gieske, seconded by Steve Schabacher. Go ahead, Dave
I
Wiltsey.
continue to ask for why we don't have the date of adjournment on these meetings. If that's the county protocol, just never seen it in all the years I've been involved.
That's something I can
One of
ask.
the things I think that's important about the date of adjournment is it gives citizens an idea how long we were here and what we dealt with.
Good points, Dave. I'll bring that up.
If I can just clarify, what we'll try to do is remind the committee chairs and the board chair to cite what time the meeting is. Or, yeah, at the end of the meeting, so that we can include that from now on. That's not a problem.
Good idea.
I usually have that in my notes too.
Thank you.
But really, one of the things is if we go into executive session and we're in for 15 minutes, it's one thing, but if we're in for an hour and a half, it's another, and the public needs to know.
Great point, Dave. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 4, prior to the approval of this agenda, we are going to be removing item 9.3 and be discussing that at a later date, correct, Kevin? All those in favor of the removal of 9.3 from the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We move on to approve tonight's agenda. All those in favor say aye.
I move to approve the agenda.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I move to approve the agenda as revised.
The agenda has been approved by Ray Larson, seconded by Rod Riley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Public comment on the phone or in the boardroom? I see nothing. So we will move on to monthly presentations, item 6.1. Mr. Sheriff, the floor is yours.
Dave. I actually will keep it really brief tonight. August is always a busy month for us. We continue to struggle with multiple serious accidents. For some reason, this is just one of the worst years it seems like we've had when it comes to accidents. One notable case, Sheriff's Office, in partnership with the Animal Control and the Animal Control, the staff that we have these days are outstanding. Did a really nice job on a joint investigation for that cockfighting operation up in Poplar Grove, where we arrested 2 people on felony charges. And really, if it wasn't for, Animal Control pursuing that, that probably wouldn't have happened. So a good partnership there. So that stuff is really working. And on a side note, we definitely get our money's worth. although she's on the air all the time, they're everywhere. So every time we get a call, animal control, there's no looking to see where they're sleeping under a tree. They are working. So I want to pass that along. So they do a fantastic job. We do have, unfortunately, it's that time of year again. Some employees with COVID already. So I want to thank the Belvedere Fire Department. We just got done sterilizing the building up there. So corrections and our PSB, and then we'll work, we're gonna, like, they helped us out last year with every other month, or just depending on how things work out, they come and sterilize it, and it's no cost to the county. So that's really huge. So I think they get their stuff from us through EMA, but it's a great partnership that we can do that. And I know last year when we thought the world was ending, we were paying some pretty serious dollars for companies. I think we're taking big advantages of that. So it's nice that we can do that stuff in-house. So we feel really good about that. Overtime report, just keep everybody updated because we're getting towards the end. Really not concerned with patrol. We're 16% under budget. Getting a little concerned about dispatch. We had to let one go. We've been trying to hire, we're trying to fill them, and if they just don't cut it, we're just not going to keep them. So we ended up hiring another one who seems to be working out pretty good right now. But that's when we start getting into, we're 21% over budget, but usually the wages kind of knock that and even it out a little bit. Well, now we're starting to hire people, we're just not retaining them. So some of those numbers are getting a little bit concerning. I don't think we'll be over budget, but again, I just like to keep the board apprised of where the budget's at. These are really the only areas that are concerning. Corrections clearly is always a big concern. We're $100,000 over budget in the overtime line item, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's a broken record, but we're 56% over budget. The wages will offset it, but now it's getting closer. We hired two, as you recall, last month, or the month before, we hired two new corrections officers who just graduated from school last week. So they started work Monday. So we're hoping, as time goes along, we can get up to staff, because that's really why it's killing us in overtime. We're currently four guys down and a couple guys injured, and it's just been kind of a mess back there. So I do appreciate the employees stepping up. That's a lot of hours to work for these employees. We made it through the fair, another one. Everything went fantastic. We had a really good fair. We had about $20,000 in expenses. Typically what happens, as most of you are aware, the fair board reimburses us about half that, give or take. It's at a minimum of a half. Sometimes it's more, just depends how the season works out. I always remind board members, because obviously it's a private event, we would be out there anyway. So this is the pride of Boone County. We support that as far as I'm concerned, as being sheriff. We're going to put people out there anyway to make people feel safe. So it's really, we probably have $20,000 in costs anyway. It's nice to at least get some reimbursement from the fair. So just to keep everybody on the same page. That painful $53,000 replacement of a air conditioning unit is working. Hopefully we get it started next Friday. They've been working on it for the last couple of weeks. The crane put it all into place, and they've had a lot of people working up there. So as you recall, that unit was 31 years old and it stopped working. So, and it's a portion of the jail where we have no I guess if it was employees, we have a little wiggle room. When it's criminals, we got to take care of them. So other than that, we are excited to have Chris Burbach back. He's one of our drug officers. He was in the National Guard for a 9-month deployment or assignment. So we're excited to have him back last week. Unfortunately, he left yesterday for Louisiana. So we'll see how long he's going to be down there. And then hopefully we can have him back. So other than that, short and sweet. Any questions?
Any questions in the boardroom for the sheriff?
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Item 6.2, County Highway Engineer, Justin.
I'll be even shorter than Dave was.
In fact, I won't even go through the update, but you all have an update. I did throw photos on there of the salt shed that it was the storm before this last one. It actually completely fell apart and there's nothing left of it. So we did go out to bid in March for that. It was replaced. They finished it yesterday, so that it has been completed. That's just a good example of some of our infrastructure that is right on the end of its life. And that was a good example of we bid it right before it basically wasn't in existence anymore. So we had the same type of thing happen last year with one of our bridges. For some of the new board members, you may not know this, but if some of the old board members would recall, the Livingston School Road Bridge that we replaced last year, we identified there's some, we've got about 15 timber structures in the county. That was one of them. And most of our timber structures, when I say timber structure, it would be a timber substructure. Most of them are at the end of their life. So they're going to be needing a replacement. So we've got a large liability ahead of us, 15 bridges, probably on average, maybe $1.5 million a piece. So, I would say $25 million worth of bridge work that needs to happen within the next 5 to 10 years. So, that's
5 million?
25 million, yes. Yep. We're doing one of those bridges. We do have, so there's some grants available. If you recall, the Poplar Grove Road Bridge is it's a just under $3 million bridge. We got an 80% grant to pay for that. So there's grants out there. We've been kind of picking off the low fruit here lately, getting some of these grants for higher volume roads. It's easier to get grants for those. So as we go, it's going to be more difficult to get these kind of grants. There's other possibilities out there that we can go for as well. But my whole point is, I guess, is that, I kind of made these statements a couple of years ago, and I just want to make these statements again real briefly to the new board members that, there's some bridge liabilities out there. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. We do have nice balances in our bridge accounts and some of our other accounts that can be used for bridges. However, our cash flow coming into those accounts to replenish them is probably not where it should be. But I just, wanted to bring up the salt shed, is something that occurred. The bridge last year, I started talking about the story with Livingston School Road Bridge. We identified about 2 years ago that bridge was in need of replacement, and it was rapidly deteriorating right at the end of its. Usually these infrastructures, elements, they last and they degrade over time. And as you start to approach the end of its life cycle, that gradient that goes down is rapidly increases. So each year it degrades quicker and quicker, and you'll see that with timber substructures. Like I said, we've got 15 of those, and so when we saw that with Livingston School Road Bridge, in fact, the day that we demoed that bridge, the IDOT, a different bureau, came out to close that bridge to traffic. They don't talk to their design bureau, and so I've got those emails saved. It's pretty unique. Is that the day the contractor demoed the bridge to put the new one in, IDOT came out and said, "Hey, this bridge has got to get closed down to traffic because it's unsafe." So that's how close we are to some of these end of the life cycles of these structures. So I just wanted to bring that up to the board and to the new board members. If you have any questions, I'm available for any of the other items on everything else is pretty much standard operations.
Thank you, Justin. Any questions, Steve Schabacher?
Yeah, Justin, on that salt shed, is that the same size that was there?
It is, yeah. It's a 30 by 40.
A wood frame structure?
No, it is not. It's a concrete block building with a aluminum skeleton with a fabric roof.
And in the same location?
Same location for Leroy Township, and then it's a new structure for Manchester that is getting placed.
Is there any difference in the old structure? I mean, other than age, any amenities that's on one now compared to what you had? Anything better?
No, it's the same thing. So it'll probably last 15, 20 years, same as the other one. I think we got 18 years out of the other one. So, it's pretty common. And we just replaced the membrane roof of that. So all of the other elements, the concrete block, the aluminum skeleton, all those were salvaged and used. And so the membrane was $8,000 to replace that. The perfect example, the other one that we built for Manchester, that one was a little over, it was 21 or 22,000. And that's without the concrete block. So, so basically you'd expect for something like that every, 15 to 20 years, an $8,000 membrane replacement.
Thank you. Any other questions for Justin? Thank you.
Nice job.
I just wanted to note for the record that Jonathan Bandler arrived at about 6:05 PM. You are present and accountable?
Yeah.
All right. On to section 7, quarterly department presentations. We'll start out with Ms. Jessica Mueller.
Good evening. I submitted a brief report. The most significant thing that the assessment office has to report is that we received all of the reassessment done by the townships at the county office a few weeks ago. We've completed our review. And we are on track to publish assessments earlier than they have ever been made public for the last 5 years. So we're expecting September 30th. I know the report says October 1st, but we will be publishing in the Boone County Journal, and they have changed their publication date. So they now publish on Thursday. So the publication date will be September 30th. And we have been getting our files together so that we can take these electronic files and get them to our mail service that prepares our assessment notices and the electronic file that's used for publication. The fair went well. I was really pleased with the way that went. We were able to do a lot of outreach, I think, and reach people we don't normally reach because, everybody takes in information differently. And we have completed the translation of the property tax clinic that we do typically around appeal time. We've had that translated into Spanish, and we are looking for venues so that we can provide this information to the Hispanic community this year during appeal season. So if there are any questions, I'll be happy to take those.
Are there any questions for Jessica in the boardroom? There's nobody on the phone, right? So I can just ask.
There's department heads on.
Departments, yeah. No, okay. I'm just gonna, any questions for Jessica? Seeing none. Great job, Jessica. All right, item 7.2, county clerk and recorder, Julie. Julie, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hi.
Sorry I'm not there actually in person. I had an 8th grade volleyball game that I needed to attend and just walked in the door. So just to let you know, we've got a lot going on. Even though it seems a little bit slow in the office, we have quite a bit that we're preparing for. I did submit a letter, but we're having work on our voter registration completed. Getting ready for what we call the purge, which is by statute something we have to do every couple of years, and sending out a new voter registration card. This year will be a little bit interesting because we will not be including all of the districts that we normally do on your voter registration card, just simply because there are going to be a lot of changes coming up in the next year. And it's not something statutorily that has to be included on there. So probably end of October, early November, people will get something in the mail. That's really just for us to confirm that you are at that address and that you are a registered voter. One of the things that we do in preparation of that is we have to go through after every presidential election, we go backwards to look and see who has not voted since the presidential election prior. So really since the end of 2015 to see who has not voted. We do suspend those people and we send a letter out to all of them in order to give them the opportunity to keep their registration in place. So that is something that we're working on as well. I've been attending a lot of meetings. As you probably know, the governor has been signing a lot of bills like crazy lately. There's going to be a lot of changes election-wise. There's a lot of changes, actually, that will be affecting tax extension. There's going to be some other things that will affect levies. So we're really doing a lot of meetings right now to kind of vet everything out and see how everybody's going to be doing this moving forward. I did have, as you know, I'm the new legislative chair for the Illinois Association of County Clerk and Recorders for the legislative committee. I led my first meeting this week and it was great. We had Representatives Maurice West and Dave Vella joined us for that. They approached me earlier. Actually, I met them at the fair and they were telling me that they were going to be submitting a bill for increasing precinct sizes. And they asked if I wanted to be a part of the conversation. I ended up inviting them to our meeting. They are very much interested. In fact, I believe Representative West has already filed a new bill to increase it to 1,200. And that would include voters in the polling place, not registered voters. The other interesting about that, they were concerned that Cook County and some of the larger communities would not be in favor of this. And the deputy clerk who runs elections for Cook County was on the meeting, spoke up and said they were 100% behind this bill. And usually when Cook County's behind something, it's usually pretty much guaranteed that it's going to go through. They're looking at this for the veto session so that that will be in place when all of the county clerks then go forward to change precincts based on all the mapping changes. I did see some mapping changes that they did pass Tuesday morning. I saw the new maps. So there will be lots of changes for Boone County for sure. For that respect, congressional maps, still not quite sure when those are going to be coming out. So we do have a lot of interesting things that we're kind of watching. And it's going to be a really interesting year. So right now it's kind of the calm and preparation to see what's going to happen. But in the next couple of months, things are really going to pick up and we'll be moving along pretty quickly. We did do some upgrades to our recording software. So that's been going very smoothly. We will be doing some upgrades to our Vital Records program here in the next month or so as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. Any questions for Julie? Yes, Sherry?
Well, mine isn't necessarily a question, Julie, it's a comment. In your report, you made a suggestion that Boone County have a booth at the fair next year. We've already had one department head talking about her time at the county fair, Jessica, and then you. So
Yeah.
is it, I think perhaps it is something we should be thinking about.
Collective booth with everybody, like a one-stop.
Well, Boone County, and so you can have we could have and representatives from the board, we could have admin for there, the assessor, the county clerk, and anyone else that would like to be there.
But it was interesting, and I'm sure Jessica found this too. I was there. This is the first time I've done that. It wasn't campaigning. It was strictly an informational booth. It was about the programs that recorder's office that we have for our veterans and for property fraud alert. It was also about answering questions about elections, because obviously things have not died down since November 2020 and people have questions. And it was just making, a lot of times people would stop and say, I've been thinking about this. Who do I talk to? And it was very easy for me to say, hey, you need to call, actually, Jessica's here. Go talk to Jessica over at the Keenage booth. Or, I answered questions about tax bills. I answered questions about the treasurer's office. I answered questions about several different departments. And I think it was just an advantage because it was an opportunity for people to ask questions that maybe they don't normally think about to ask until they see you. And most of the questions, people didn't even know who they were supposed to even talk to about it. So, but I spent 60 hours or so just in my booth over that week. And I think if we did a county booth, not only are they able to ask questions of the board, ask questions of the different offices, but we can all take turns and maybe it's not quite as strenuous of a thing. But it was just really, really helpful. And quite honestly, people were fantastic to talk to. They genuinely were nice and had questions. And I only had a couple of people that I was not going to get anywhere with a conversation with, and tried to help them the best I could. But yeah, it was, I really think that this is a good opportunity for the county.
Can I do a follow-up? Well, I think what happens too is you change the venue. Because, you know, there's a whole lot of people that don't even know where we live here. They don't know anything. And so I think you change the venue so it's a much more collegial, you know, thing. And I think it was a great idea, Julie, and I would hope that we will pursue that.
Wonderful. Good. That would be great. I'd be happy to help with whatever needs help with.
Me too.
Julie, I have a question. Do you have a ballpark figure? And if you don't, it's okay, but I mean, about what our estimated percentage of turnover is in a year or 2 years, people moving in, people moving out?
I don't, because mine's more about voter registration than it is about, I mean, we do the recordings, but not all the recordings are about new sales. A lot of them are going to be, you know, maybe doing a quick claim or putting things in trust. So I really don't, as far as population goes, other than just what we've seen with the census data that was released, and there wasn't that big, that wasn't a huge dramatic drop by any means. But voter registration seems to have been remaining very steady for the last probably 4 or 5 years, right around 34,000 people for registered voters.
Thank you.
Steve Schabacher?
Yeah, several years ago, I think, I remember one of them, remember local down at the community building where a lot of people would get together. I know when I was employed by the city, I'd go down there with the mayor. They'd have the chief of police, chief of fire, other department heads would come in there. And I really enjoyed it, you know, as a director of buildings. People would come in and, hey, Steve, can I talk to you for a minute? I think it was really a good thing that Mr. Burton was the mayor, and it went well. So I don't know what happened to it. I remember being involved with that, and certainly if I didn't think it was a good thing, I wouldn't bring it up. But it went really good. Had a lot of fun. So
Okay. Something we can entertain here. Sherry Bartel.
Yeah, Julie, how are you doing with the redistricting and the precincts?
Well, the precincts, I'm not to do until after all of the mapping is done. But what I have Tammy working on for us is just to get us an idea based on the data that was just released. She's working on the maps. She'll give about 3 different alternatives, similar to what Brant did about 10 years ago. But she's also going to do an overlay of our current precincts over those maps that you can choose which one you want to move forward with. And then that will kind of give us an idea. So then once all of the mapping is done from the state, from congressional, and then the county board, then that's when I'll take a look at our precincts and work on seeing which ones need to be changed.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Julie? Seeing none, we are going to move on. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. Have a good night.
7.3 corner, Rebecca.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Things are running pretty smooth in the coroner's office. Nothing really new to report. I can say for the first time in 13 years since I've been coroner, we're at full staff, and mostly everybody is trained at this point. I don't know how long that'll last, but I'll enjoy it while it does. Other than that, we are a little higher than we were last year. Case-wise, we're about 35 to 40 cases higher than we were last year. If anybody's got any questions on the report.
Any questions for the coroner? Go ahead.
Yeah,
Schabacher.
I don't know, or I don't, well, I know very little about responsibilities, but when you say cases, what does that cover?
Any death that the office has investigated. So I think our total for the year right now is 282. Last year at this time, we were at 246.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Rebecca in the order? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
7.4 Health Department. Amanda, are you on the line?
Yes. Hi, good evening, Ryan. I'm here.
Good evening. Floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Amanda Mail here with the Boone County Health Department. I believe our Board of Health monthly packet was uploaded on Board Docs. Thank you, County Admin, for doing that. I'll just hit a few quick highlights within our domain report. So under domain 1, which is monitor health, I did want to bring to the county board's attention that the FDA did approve the Pfizer biotech COVID-19 vaccine, which is now going to be referred to as Comirnaty, as an official and permanent part of the US vaccination schedule. So it has been removed from emergency use authorization, and it is now part of the permanent vaccine schedule for adults and children that are age eligible. Then I did want to mention too, under domain 4, which is mobilized community partnerships, that our core and sort programs continue to grow at an exponential rate. We finished the month of July with 25 referrals, and in August, we had 15 referrals so far at the date that the report was submitted, and the final tabulation will come out soon when we complete that monthly report. CORE did host a lunch and learn in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, and there was a news story featured on Channel 23 News. This was in lead up to Overdose Awareness Day, which was this past Tuesday, August 31st. We had a lot of business owners and stakeholders and leaders attend to learn more about the programs and ways in which they can get involved in the community. We were also advertising the free Narcan trainings that took place on Tuesday. There were 3 that Officer Michelle Schwartz, our community law enforcement officer, and program manager Jessica Perlow hosted at the Public Safety Building, and we had over 56 community members complete during those 3 trainings their competency in Narcan administration. So they were provided with kits of Narcan that they can carry with them in the community and potentially save a life. Another exciting thing about that program is we did have some of our core program participants bring their families to be trained, which is a really great way to prevent a fatal overdose going forward as we continue to work with our clients on their roads to recovery. Of special note with our SORT program, what we're seeing most through our community law enforcement officer is huge amounts of referrals for mental health services. So she has been working with us now for a little over 2 months, and she's had 146 referrals, which is more than we had imagined. 36 of those were mental health or substance abuse related, 16 due to domestic violence, and 16 contacts were from concerned family members. So that program continues to grow and expand, and our fingers are crossed that in October we will hear good news from the Department of Justice about the 3rd federal grant that has been applied for through the Behavioral Health Task Force. Just a couple more notes I would mention under domain 8, which is assure a competent workforce. We do have a couple of interns that are working on projects in our office this semester. We have an intern who is assisting with our environmental center, working on some of the policies and procedures that we need for our FAB accreditation process. And then we have an intern that is joining our mass vaccination team, which we're really excited about. The only other item that I wanted to mention briefly is that we are continuing to offer our mobile testing units and our walk-in clinics for COVID-19 vaccine. We're bringing testing back to the county in partnership with our school districts 100 and 200. So in addition to the mobile units that we deploy for vaccines for Johnson & Johnson, and then the walk-in clinic that we offer in our office for Pfizer and Moderna, we will be offering shield testing, which is a saliva-based PCR test, very non-invasive, and it will be running through several of our school district buildings. So this will allow for community members as well as parents, students, and athletes to take advantage of free and rapid testing. So we're pretty excited about that. That concludes my brief report, and I would turn it back over to you.
Any questions for Amanda? Dave Wiltsey has a question, Amanda.
Actually, I've got 4 different questions. Let me take what I hope is the quickest one. Screen 19, page 22 of your report has an insurance payment for Dr. Phoenix. Is he someone specifically associated with our program?
Dr. Phoenix is our medical director.
Okay, thanks. That's the easy one. Okay. Hopefully the other ones won't be too bad either. On page 11 of the report, and I'm not sure which screen it is, I just wanted to highlight for listeners and those out in the community, there's a lot happening, as everyone knows. And page 11 of the COVID-19 report from the governor's office indicates in about 2/3 way down the page, at a time when the Delta variant is surging, an additional dose could help prevent serious and possibly life-threatening COVID-19 cases within moderately and severely immunocompromised populations. It's important to note that the CDC does not as is emphasized, recommend additional doses or booster shots for any other population at this time. And then you look at the next screen, which is kind of like a little poster, and it indicates that there's no timeline for the Johnson & Johnson recipients to have yet has been determined. It does indicate that the Pfizer or Medina should be 4 weeks after the second dose. And that's on additional doses. On the booster dose, it's not recommended for people starting 8 months after the second dose. The booster dose is expected to be available on September 20th for those who received the Pfizer or Medina. So I just wanted to indicate that there is some complexity here, and you need to contact the Department of Public Health or the state or your own physician to make sure that you get the booster of the kind that you took. And if you took Johnson & Johnson, that didn't in yet. And then finally, did I mischaracterize anything?
No, I was going to ask you if you wanted a volunteer position on our COVID-19 hotline, actually.
Well, actually, I'm going to sit down with my physician Tuesday because I've had the COVID and I'm trying to figure some of this stuff out. And there's so much information, and sometimes it's misinformation. And for the average citizen to distinguish between additional shots and booster shots and so forth, I can see the confusion, as Julie Stapler was saying earlier, how nice it was to be able to be there to answer people's questions when they don't have, and there's Vice Chairman Giesky said they don't have usually that opportunity to even have a chance to chat like that. So that's why I want to take that opportunity to highlight that. The only other question I have is this opportunity number NVVSR 21001. Did we apply for this for the Department of Human Services?
Yes, we submitted this grant application during the month of August. And the goal of this particular grant opportunity through Health and Human Services would allow for a small amount of funding, about $125,000, if I'm remembering correctly, to continue to do not only COVID-19 vaccine promotion, but all vaccine promotion to vaccine hesitant or vaccine questioning populations, meaning doing outreach in areas where maybe we're not reaching as much, or areas where additional information needs to be provided, areas where people have additional questions, populations that are considered target populations for information. So this would allow us to expand some of our COVID-19 vaccine outreach, but also to do some education on very important and very needed childhood vaccines. We have a lot of kiddos in our community that due to the pandemic and lots of services being postponed or held back last year, are behind on some of their regular childhood immunizations. And so our department will be working pretty assertively to reach out to those families to make sure that they know where to go and what vaccines their children still need. And we'll be working with our schools on this as well. So yes, we did apply for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, because I did notice that the application deadline was August 17th. So I figured that was the answer. But I wanted to clarify that for myself. In page 33 of the presentation, which is page 7 of that notice of funding opportunity, the first, under objectives 1A, identify a local community with a low vaccination coverage rates and lagging confidence in vaccines. And I assume that means something within Boone, some area within Boone that it might be identifiable that the department would want to focus on. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. The second one I was a little bit uncomfortable with. It was 1B, plan and implement targeted interventions in the community designed to increase confidence in vaccines and the community's willingness to be vaccinated. Could you explain that as you might understand that?
Yeah, so this would be, and we're doing some of this with COVID-19 vaccine. This would be public service announcements on the radio or on TV with credible factual information from verified sources. This would be a radio spot where we would do an interview back and forth to answer people's questions. This would be additional advertising, whether it be via social media or via pamphlet or flyer. This would be ramping up our efforts on our main line to answer people's questions, to make sure that they are pointed in the right direction to have the information they need to make educated and informed decisions. So we do that already, and we have done that before COVID. It just allows us to have a funding source to do a little bit stronger job of that now in the wake of COVID and post-COVID, as we work to make sure that our kids have their needed childhood vaccinations, as well as providing education and information about the COVID-19 vaccine.
Thank you, because I expected that there was some more user-friendly, coherent explanation other than targeted intervention, which kind of struck me as a little weird when I read it. But thank you for that explanation.
Yes, targeted intervention seems to be a buzzword right now used in a lot of federal grants, and it basically just means getting out in the community, spreading the word, providing credible information, and supporting community initiatives towards positive health outcomes. It's a very aggressive way of saying what should maybe sound a little bit nicer, right?
Thank you.
Sherry Giesky?
Amanda, way back when, and of course my memory is not that great, but way back when this nightmare started, I seem to recall lots of conversation about attaining herd immunity. And I also seem to remember that that would have several components, one of which was from a vaccine, and another was from natural immunities, from antibodies that people have had COVID have. Maybe this is a rhetorical question, but I don't hear anything about that any longer. There's no discussion at all about, this collective ways to attain herd immunity. Can you shed some light on that for me?
Well, the work is still being done. The clinical trials are being conducted. The research is being worked on. I think, just to be completely frank, the reason why you're not hearing about it anymore is because the mainstream media is not as interested in that topic as they are in other topics. There's quite a bit of literature beginning to be published about some of the findings and the best ways to figure out, especially as we see more of these variant strains circulating, what we would need to achieve herd immunity in the general population. And that takes into consideration, like you said, people who've been vaccinated, and then people who have had COVID and have recovered and have some natural immunity, or a little bit of both. One of the biggest things I've seen in the studies that are coming out now is figuring out exactly when is the appropriate time. And by appropriate, I mean the most assertive time to administer a booster shot or a third dose. And there's a difference between the two, as was just indicated in the previous series of questions, and then how long that sustained immunity would last. So similar to the seasonal flu shot, where every October, November, people step up and roll up their sleeves and choose to be vaccinated against the influenza virus, which is a rapidly changing virus as well. And we have different strains circulating. COVID-19 is proving to be very similar. So everything that I've been reading indicates that we're probably looking at something that will be endemic within the community, that will be present and around. But what is the best way to live with it so that it's not overwhelming our hospitals and taking up room that other patients need, which is the biggest issue that we have with with COVID right now is that it continues to drain hospital resources. Whereas seasonal flu, while people do die of seasonal flu every year, it doesn't overwhelm our healthcare system and cause us to get to a tipping point where the healthcare system in the United States can't handle the number of cases and the number of mortalities and the number of people who are severely ill. So everything that I've been reading looks like we're looking at boosters and we're looking at this to be endemic in our society really for the foreseeable future. It's just a question of pinpointing exactly how regularly somebody would need a booster shot or a regular injection that would continue to sustain their immunity.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Amanda? I see none. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Ryan.
7.5 Animal Services. Rick, are you here?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Third quarter Animal Services took in 56,000 into the general fund. Our our non-personnel expenditures were around 16,000. Personnel costs were 41,000. We also took in 9,700 into the building and maintenance fund and 1,900 spay and neuter income, and we had $1,172 donated to Animal Services. We also spent 2,600 out of the donations fund for vet care, shelter animals, including some pretty significant costs for hospitalization of some parvo-positive dogs that we had back in June, which I'll be talking about a little bit more in a few minutes. One of the things I want to do tonight was bring some special recognition to a couple from Poplar Grove who have been pretty significant benefactors to Animal Services for the last year. Bob and Jody Matthews. This couple have donated close to $1,300 in a year in revenue, $1,300, and they've also donated what we estimate to be several $100s worth of dog and cat food, cat litter, and other such things. We have a lot of people that donate a lot of stuff to us, but they're definitely leading the charge. And in addition to that, they're also bringing a lot of awareness of the importance of donations to our organization as well. The ladies that brought them here tonight to hear me talk about us and them here in a few minutes. One of the things that they work on is putting out there on social media all of the stuff that people bring us that really keeps our organization going and saves a lot of money. You've heard me mention before that since I've started, we've only had to buy one bag of dog food. That still remains the case. The sheriff mentioned the cockfighting thing. We're responsible for feeding 150 chickens for about 2 weeks. We did have to pay for that stuff, but I know if it weren't for people like the Matthews and a lot of other people, we'd be spending thousands of dollars here on dog and cat food. I've mentioned this previously. I'll bring it up again that we had began a registration reminder campaign to owners who haven't bought their rabies licenses when they went to the vet. Since then, I've asked Kelly to start keeping track of the number of people that are bringing their letters with them when they come in to get their licenses so that we know exactly how much of that revenue is directly correlated with the letters and the postage that we're spending on them. So just in the third quarter alone, over $1,100 of revenue for tag revenue is directly correlated with those letters that are sent out. So for a couple of rolls of stamps, we're getting $1,200 essentially back. So good investment there. During the third quarter, we responded to 220 calls. We brought in 97 animals, physically to the shelter. And I say that to the shelter because we also took responsibility for 150 chickens, but they did not come to the shelter, fortunately. We also adopted out 16 animals and returned 42 of them to their owners. And we have what I counted earlier to be 11 of those animals still with us on the premise, dogs and cats. The sheriff mentioned earlier that we responded to 12540 Poplar Grove Road on the 29th of July with his deputies in response to a cockfighting investigation. He already mentioned the arrests that were made. 150 approximately chickens there. We counted 53 roosters, I believe it was, that were there, plus a dog. So myself and my staff, who are seated back here, were responsible for going out there 7 days a week for about 2.5 weeks. In addition to everything that they do every other day of the year, it's a 365-day-a-year job. So in addition to everything that they do every other day, they were also going out there twice a day, every day, weekends, feeding 150 chickens and the dog that was there to guard them. It's a significant expenditure in time and effort, and they're doing all of that selflessly in addition to everything else that they're already doing. The outcome for all those chickens is that we were able to successfully rehome all of them. I didn't have to euthanize a single one. Some of them may have ended up being consumed, but we didn't have to euthanize any of them, and I'm thankful for that. The fair's been talked about. Lisa and Deputy Bunk at different points went to the fair, which was going on during this whole ordeal, and networked with several poultry farmers in the area and some 4-H groups. Met some great people, made some great contacts. Kelly found a poultry rescue in a adjacent county. All of these people came together with us, and we were able to get all of these chickens into places where we were confident that they were not going to end up in cockfighting again. So great outcome there. Thankful to the sheriff's staff, great help there. He mentioned the relationship that we have. I'd agree. We have a great working relationship with all of them. They're always there whenever we need anything. Pass that on to them. We certainly appreciate it. And the last thing, and I'm going to try to get through this without getting choked up or crying. I asked these ladies to come here today to hear me talk about them. All right. The stuff that we get out of them day in and day out, it's really just hard to wrap up into words. And I wanted all of you guys to know, and the people that you represent to know what we get out of these 365 days a year. And then all the stuff that they do in addition to that. Everybody knows that the animal control is going out and catching stray dogs, but there's a lot of other stuff that goes on top of it. You know, from the first hour every day, cleaning the shelter top to bottom, left to right. You know, it's cleaning up after the animals, feeding and watering them. We're also the janitorial staff. We all share in all of that stuff. And then dealing with customers that come in across the counter all day long, and these most of the time, sometimes me going out on calls, stuff like that. But then there's getting up, in the middle of the night and going on stuff, or you have an owner that wants to reclaim their animal, but the only time they can come is Saturday afternoon when we're not open, somebody will invariably come to meet them, or on Sundays or on holidays, we do returns. You can't get an animal back from any other organization on a holiday. Nobody does it, but we do. Back in June, as you may recall, the last time I was up here, I told all you guys that I had to go away for 3 weeks to a military school. And just a few days after I was gone, we had a parvovirus outbreak in the kennel. If you don't know what that is, it's a highly contagious virus that dogs can get. It's environmentally stable. It can live on hard surfaces for months without a host. It's very easily spread. It's hard to treat in animals. It's costly. It takes a lot of time. And isolating animals that are still healthy from the ones that aren't takes a significant amount of time and a significant amount of effort. What Boone County gets with Ms. Jeske is 30+ years of veterinary experience. And what I heard from Dr. Lenman when he talked to me about this is the day that this became an issue, when he got there to sort of put things into motion, they already had everything done. He didn't have to do anything. He could tell as soon as he walked in the door from the smell of bleach that they had already started doing everything that they were supposed to do, and there wasn't anything left for him to do. They had already done everything that had to be done, both of them working together. That's what we get out of these ladies. I didn't write any of this stuff down. There's no notes, and I even wrote down there from the heart. And I hope you know how much I appreciate it. That's all I have.
Yeah. Sherry.
I think I just have a comment. They wouldn't be that good if they didn't have a good leader.
Yeah.
But you do know that already, right?
When you were in my job interview, Mr. Newhouse asked me in the interview, and you may remember this, what my plan was, or had I thought about how to handle a situation where I was going to be away on military duty. You want to know if I had thought about that? And I said, yes, I have. I've thought about that a great deal.
Yep.
And what I knew to be true is that I was going to have to find the very best people to do the jobs that are there, so that when I'm not in the building, I didn't have to worry about stuff getting done.
Go ahead, Sherry.
I thought perhaps you were going to tell us how many chickens the sheriff took. Or did he take them all? Oh, never mind. And I do have an explanation. It comes from my own love for my dog. Not the dog I have currently, but my dog, I took millions of pictures all the time. So my daughter, you know how girls are, got real pissy once and said, "You take more pictures of that dog than you do of me. And you girls back there are going to know what this means." I said, "That's because this dog is nicer to me than you." There you go. So I'm right with you, girls. Nice job. Nice job. Yeah, you know about daughters. Wait till she's a teenager.
Jeff Carlisle.
One other thing, Rick, and I appreciate the staff that you have, we know that, but you forgot to leave out one important animal in the chicken caper, the dog.
Chicken nugget. I briefly mentioned her. So the happy ending for the dog, yes, I mentioned the chickens, and thanks for reminding me. We did adopt the dog out also. So she actually got to stay with some chickens. The dog's purpose in life is herding chickens. She protects them. I talked to Mr. Carlisle and Ms. Bartelt about this earlier. I guess I was partly fearful of running over my time, but the dog protects the chickens. She kills rats. She killed rats while we were out there right in front of us. It's kind of gross, actually. Protects them, of course, from raccoons and fox at night and stuff like that. So it was important for us that the dog went to a place where she would be able to continue to do her purpose in life, and we were able to do that as well.
Nice.
Nice job.
Very nice.
Good job, Rep. Excellent.
Thank you.
Did you guys adopt that Yorkie out that I tried? The 32 ounce going on 68 pound Yorkie that you guys had there? That thing was insane.
We have 3 dogs that are available right now if anybody's in there.
Any other questions for Rick? Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, Sherry, didn't see you.
I just want to tell Rick, thank you for meeting with both Jeff Carlisle and myself this afternoon. We understand how things go a little bit out there, and you have solved a lot of problems out there as far as billing goes. And I would like to thank you and your staff for allowing us to walk around the building and meet 3 kittens and that are all up for adoption eventually, and 3 dogs that are up for adoption. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
We thank you too.
Any other questions for Rick? All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for your time.
All right, moving on to written monthly department reports and updates. Do we have any comments on any of those? Seeing none, we will moving on to new business. Item 9.1, I need a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, and Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
So moved.
Second. Made by Jeff Carlisle, seconded by Steve Schubacher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 9.2, a motion to move SUP-21-2021 Johnson Special Use forward to the county board for approval. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ray Larson, seconded by Sherry Gieske. All those in favor? Or do we discuss? I'm sorry. Stafford, we need someone to talk first. Go ahead, Izzy.
Okay, thank you.
Ahead of myself.
Could you please pull up my PowerPoint, please?
What are you doing?
Thank you. Good evening, board. All right, let's jump right in. The site is located at 8428 Blaine Road in northeast Boone County. It is located in Leroy Township. The site is approximately 40 acres. There is a single-family dwelling there, as well as an accessory agricultural structures. The site is zoned A1, Agricultural Preservation District. A1 district is intended for a variety of agricultural uses, but it does allow for more involved special uses, including agritourism. Ms. Johnson, who is the applicant, is seeking a special use permit for a seasonal tourist attraction. So this tourist attraction will incorporate her existing farmers market where she sells honey and jams, and will add cheese and wine baskets, as well as the small winery, which is semi-private and of course seasonal, with limited amount of days that it'll be working open, and hours of operation, which you will see in the conditions. As you can see from the site plan, there is an additional entrance to the attraction, which is highlighted in green, and that is also where the attraction sign will be located. The drive will go around the property, and you'll see in the next slide, it's kind of like a natural drive that's already there, which will lead right to the parking, designated parking location, which is highlighted in purple, which is actually right in front of the future orchard. And then the star in blue is actually where the winery will take place. That location has a full kitchen as well as an accessible restroom. So here is an aerial shot of that. It's kind of grainy, but if you see any aerial, there's like a natural drive that is there. There is some gravel there, and it kind of curves around to reach the designated parking space, which is right there highlighted in red. Here's some photographs that I took while I was out on the site. The first one, it shows kind of the gravel like entrance, which is the second entrance. The middle one is the actual attraction location. And then the side one is where the parking will be, which had actually a tractor parked there. So it's typically where they would park some of their ag vehicles. I did want to look at the surrounding area, and for reference, Beaver Creek Golf Course is located southeast of our subject property. And when I looked at the distance from residential use, the proposed attraction entrance is located over 800 feet from a residential entrance and a residential use, and over 200 feet away from the right-of-way into the property, which would be the attraction that I showed you in the parking area. Seasonal tourist attractions do require a special use. In addition, there were other agencies that reviewed this, including building and zoning. So if the permit is approved, any future building permits or renovations will have to comply with the commercial building code. The Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District also did a review on the property, and their board recommended favorably on the project. They were concerned on possible trees that would have to be cut down because of that drive. But again, as I showed you, it is kind of a natural drive, and the applicant has expressed that no trees would have to be cut down for that. The health department also reviewed the project, and they have no objections. However, they must comply with permits, including food permits, well and septic, and liquor, which Ms. Johnson is familiar with and is actually seeking them right now. The Planning Commission took a look at the comprehensive plan. The future intended use is agricultural and greenway. So agricultural is intended for a variety of agricultural uses, and there's a big part that relates to agritourism. The open space or green space is intended for parks, conservation areas, golf courses, and recreation facilities. And typically when we see greenways, it is associated with a floodplain. There are no floodplains in this area, but what I did see was a natural stormwater course, and that could be why they're kind of highlighted on the property. But the proposed use is in line with the future land use, so there will be no conflicts. The Planning Commission reviewed, like I said, this, and the plans, the comprehensive plan goals and objectives. So what we're looking at here is Objective C, promoting small business ventures and a culture of entrepreneurship, which is exactly what Ms. Johnson is trying to do. She's trying to open and expand her small business. Goal 7.2, to attract businesses that diversify the Boone County economy and complement the region. So Ms. Johnson would be incorporating locally grown products. She has her own bees, so that's where she gets the honey, and they are planting their own fruits for the wine. So the Boone County Planning Commission voted in favor, August 17th, 3-0. The Zoning Board took a look at the findings of fact and voted in favor 3-0 on August 27th with some changes to the conditions, which we'll see next. But the findings of fact typically were reviewed as well. And so parts of the proposed use are existing, and they will enhance the farmer's market permit that she has. So it will elaborate this local business sector. The proposed use is not anticipated to have negative effects. The surrounding development wouldn't have negative effects either, as it is completely contained on the site. As you saw from the site plan, there is still space to grow if needed, but there's also privacy. It is required to conform to the applicable regulations in the ag district. The proposed use would be subject to review by other departments, including permitting, like we mentioned with the health department, and must follow the conditions. The proposed use would bring more locally owned businesses to the community and would encourage entrepreneurship, which is a goal of the comprehensive plan. So staff is recommending that the committee of the whole recommend in favor of the special use permit for case SUP 21-2021 with the following conditions. So the ones highlighted in red are the changes or tweaks that were made at zoning board, but I'll go one by one. So the first one, only one identifiable sign will be allowed on site not to exceed 32 square feet per side, which is a total of 64 square feet, and subject to mounting setback requirements by the Boone County zoning ordinance. So the current allowances for signs in A1 for something like this is much smaller. So we do give a little bit more allowance up to that size. So if they want to find something between that. Number two, the project should be in compliance with the site plan that's presented. Number 3 is one that was added. So there was no mention of when the business would run. The applicant did mention in her application that it would run twice a week between 10 and 5. And so after some discussion with ZBA, it was determined that maybe in the future she would like to expand 2 more days. So zoning board voted to include the business will run up to 4 days a week and gave an extra hour, so from 9 to 5. Condition number 4 was tweaked. So the point of this condition was to include any sort of accessory food items or otherwise to a winery. So typically when you go to a winery, sometimes you don't just have wine, right? They have cheese, they have jams, they might have other things. So that's what I wanted to portray in this condition. So the sale area should be products from the farm-based business and accessory food products to include but not limited to. So I wanted to make sure I highlighted food because maybe if you guys would consider removing food, just to kind of have it open to anything accessory to a winery. Number 6, no vehicles may be parked along Blaine Road or on the right of way, and they all should be parked on the subject property, in particular to the located parking spots on the site plan. Compliance with the Boone County Health Department regulations, which number 6 and number 7 are related, as number 7 is compliance with all other applicable local, state, and federal laws, rules, and regulations. Any questions?
Any questions for Izzy? Dave Wiltsey?
I just wanted to make some favorable comments to this. Not only do I think it makes a lot of sense, this is a special use that comes to us meeting the various criteria we want to expect to see in a proposed special use. There's planned parking, there's use of existing structures. It's really part of the ongoing farmers market thing that they're already involved in. They're doing products that are obviously adjunct or ancillary to the main agricultural purpose of the whole area. And so I'm real pleased about this and we'll be voting in favor of it. I would like to suggest that, and I don't know if are these folks here tonight? I mean, thank you. Thank you for your entrepreneurship efforts here. I was just thinking to myself, you know, is this the kind of removing the word food so that if you wanted to sell some cheese spreaders that are made someplace else or some cutting boards or the little things that people like to put on their wine glasses so at parties they don't get confused whose glass it is, and all those accessory things that would be a small proportion of what your sales would be, but would give you an opportunity to give a little bit broader, fuller aspect to all the goodies you're going to sell. And I would be in favor of that, and I would recommend the removal of the word food so that so there's other things they could do as accessory products.
Any other questions for Izzy? Go ahead, Jonathan.
Have the neighbors been notified? Have they been asked?
Yes.
Any
Notices were sent out.
feedback, positive, negative, any feedback?
I received a positive feedback from a neighboring adjacent owner that they are 100% behind this attraction.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great question. Do you have a question, Bill?
No.
No?
No.
Right, moving along, go ahead, Dave.
So I would, and I don't know if it's appropriate to amend the recommendation at this time, but I would say any accessory and then strike products, any accessory products. Just something that, so it's clear that they could come up and bring in some other items that would be ancillary to the sale of cheese and wine.
Okay, I believe we have to vote on that amendment.
That was a motion, so you need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion was made, seconded by Jonathan Van Laar. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Any discussion on that?
Go ahead. Yes, sorry. You have something to add?
We only had, that should have, anything to add to that thing is on the confines of the health department reviewing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's in there already.
Just want to be sure it's
Yeah.
making about the food.
Number 6.
Mr. Chairman?
I'd like to ask the applicants a couple questions if that's possible.
Shoot.
Hello,
Hello. Thank you for joining us this evening.
thanks for the opportunity.
Just a couple questions for you. A lot of times we see wineries and things like that, or I'm sure many of us are familiar with McEachran's or one of the many other places that have sprouted up around, and great little venues to go and see things. This appears to be a fairly small operation and small deal. What are your long-term goals and aspirations for this? Is it to stay like this? Is it 5, 10 years down the road, you want to get bigger, you want to do live music, you want to have, kind of the whole McEachran thing? I mean, I'm just curious what your long-term goals are and aspirations.
Sure. Right now, we're starting out small. We don't want to go over budget or, go to an extreme. My husband is the winemaker and he still is employed full-time. So eventually, in retirement years, we will like to go larger. But at this time, right now, we're going to keep it small and work on the gift baskets and the honey, the jam, just things like that. So we are right now staying smaller. Our house is not real far away from the building, so that kind of limits us to, we don't want, people there late at night or for like a venue for weddings or anything like that. So, maybe down the road, we would enlarge it. We do have 40 acres. We could easily put up another building and accommodate for larger events. We have had a wedding, our son's wedding on the property, and it was really, really nice. And everybody says, oh, you should do an event. And at this point, we're just gonna stay small.
And are you going to have like an outdoor patio area or indoor seating area where people can enjoy a glass of wine, those kinds of things also, or are you?
Yes, of course, I would like to have a tasting room for sales. And we do have a small patio. We're still building a pergola on that. And inside, we do have the building is 21 by 24, and we have a very small kitchen in there. And then there's a room where we could set up, actually, I have maybe 4 tables right now. So yes, people would be welcome to come in and sit down. Plus, there's a lot of area around the building too that we could always set up tables too, or chairs or benches or different things like that.
Okay, and then last question. All this application, everything says seasonal. So does that mean you're only looking at during the spring, summer, fall? You're going to be closed in the winter? What does seasonal mean?
Well, that kind of comes along with just maybe the 4 days. And probably January, February, it's probably not going to have a lot of traffic. I guess with the limited days is where I came up with the seasonal. Also, during the winter, we probably would not be real busy. And I am working on the gift baskets too, which would be probably, that might run into the holidays. Hopefully it runs into the holidays, Christmas and Valentine's Day. I guess just seasonal was the limited days, not a full week.
I guess I would maybe recommend that we remove that term seasonal out of that. I mean, seasonal seems to say that just during one part, spring or fall or summer or fall, that you're going to be open and you're closed part of those seasons. And I wouldn't want us to mislead anybody with this application that it's only a part-time thing, and that if you're open, 2 days a week all year long, well, that's not really seasonal. It's year long, just limited hours. So.
If that's a motion, I second it, Mr. Chairman.
Motion made by Chairman Johnson, seconded by Dave Wiltsey. All those in favor say aye.
You better ask
Aye.
Discussion on that.
Okay, now you can.
Go ahead.
Now you can vote, right?
Sherry, did you have something?
Well, I guess what I have to say is we're just, I think, trying to cast the net wide. So if and when Maggie wants to change it, she doesn't have to come back here. But I hope Maggie doesn't leave here thinking she has to do these things that we have said.
No, she can set her hours however she wants, but I just don't want to
I
say,
did check,
and then it's open.
But I get it.
That's a good point.
I did check with the, one of the wineries in the area and they are seasonal, but yet you can still walk in.
January 1st and get a bottle of wine.
There you go.
So,
And I'm sorry, that was my point that I wanted to make as well. So seasonal tourist attraction is actually the use that's listed.
Okay.
This would fit. But we don't have a definition for seasonal. So that was kind of like maybe the runaround, I don't want to say that, but the vagueness of that word and how it is applied. So.
Then I'd withdraw my motion. We'll just keep it.
I withdraw my second, but the minutes could reflect that we've had this discussions for legislative history.
Yeah, that's fine. I just don't want to lock you into anything.
right, exactly. Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have.
Anybody else have anything in the room for the applicant or Izzy?
So just to elaborate on Mr. Johnson, so we do have a definition for the seasonal tourist attraction, which does say that it's during a specific season of the year. But since and the existing farmer's market kind of goes with seasons, that's why this winery would fit under that use, like the McCachran winery, which is also labeled under seasonal. So just to further clarify.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tourist attraction, seasonal, shop. Anything else to add?
I just want to tell everyone, thank you very much for consideration.
Thank you.
Good job.
That being said, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried. Thank you, Izzy. 9.3 was removed, so we will move on to 9.4, budget expenditures request presentation. Kevin?
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, good evening, everyone. So tonight, we'll try to close out, this is the second to last one for probably a great discussion, but what we wanted to present tonight were the requests that came from departments and our community partners. So we, in the administration office, Dan and I met with each department head and tried to understand what they would like to see in the new budget for 2022. As you recall, the 2021 budget was completed obviously in 2020, and that was at a time where we did not know where COVID would take us and understand the implications of that virus. So you'll notice that on this presentation, a lot of the 2021 information essentially just reflects the idea that those budgets remained flat for 2021 because we didn't know what would happen with regard to the virus. So that's what you'll notice throughout the presentation. And then the 2022 budget request reflects ideas and new items, or for the most part, a lot of the budgets you'll notice sort of remained still sort of flat, exception to the capital improvement request. So we can walk through this, and then we can even take next week in the Committee of Whole Finance to review further, if need be, the expenditures from each department and community partners. So I'd like to start off with the property tax levy requests. As you can see here, these are some of the main ones that come in. So public health, they actually, Amanda does a great job with her board, and they've already actually have recommended their budget to the county board for approval, and they did not ask for a property tax increase on both of their levies. They have a referendum and resolution. They did not ask for any increase on that, so they were able to maintain a flat ask from the county side of things. And then the rest of their budget's kind of made up on their own there. So with all the grants and other various revenue streams that they have. So then we have the seniors and transportation. That is the Keene H Center. And then that's our urban and rural transportation grants that we receive. That's flat. University of Illinois Extension, their request was flat, $130,000. And then Veterans Affairs Commission was the only levy request, with exception to the highway department. They also have a that asked for an increase, and the Veterans Affairs Commission in 2020 did ask for the 265. However, I was able to ask them to remain flat just because of the virus. However, they are asking for the 265 for 2022. So that's what we have there, and then we'll move on to departments if we don't have any questions on property tax levy requests. All right. Oh, go ahead.
What is, excuse me, I'm sorry, Kevin.
Okay.
What is the Veterans Affairs rationale for the increase?
There is no rationale. So to give the county board some background, though, the Veterans Affairs Commission can ask for whatever they want, and we must give it to them. So, and aside from that as well, we also, by state statute, we have to house them as well. So that's why you'll notice on another sheet here under grants, we have to pay their lease and their utilities and things like that. So, and that's like an additional 15, 16,000. But so a lot of their fund, and I can just explain further, a lot of their budget does go to assistance for veterans though. So that's where that increase will likely go to. It'll go to that line item to increase it to assist veterans. So, but the state statute essentially, it kind of ties our hands. If they ask for it, we have to give it to them. So that's a good question though. All right, so we'll move on to departments. And then some of these, I tried to kind of sort of put them in alphabetical order. So the 17th Judicial Circuit Court, a lot of their budget, honestly, you know, for the most part remained pretty modest. A lot of their increases had to do with modernization of courtrooms, and that had to do with COVID. Jurors and legal services, there was a significant increase for interpreters and publications just due to a lot of the changes in laws. I have notes on that. A lot of that had to do with, I believe it was juvenile and abuse and neglect cases. There's all sorts of just information that they have to put out there in terms of publications and then obviously interpreter services. And those are really the significant increases. So you'll notice a 7.2% increase. The judges are actually mostly compensated through the state. We do have to pay a portion of their salary. The county has to pay a little bit, but it's very, very minor. The state picks up a lot of that cost. So you'll just notice a 7.2% increase, a net reduction of $2,000 in the law library. So their budget's pretty simple. Tom Jakeway and the 17th Judicial Circuit helps us out with the core services, and he's here actually in the audience if anyone has any questions for that scope of departments. All right, Tom, you got off easy. All right, we'll move on to administration, which is my department. A lot of it, we have a 13.5% increase, which can be explained. We have about a 3.5 full-time equivalent personnel, and actually one of our staff, the half-time employee, is actually paid out of a different fund. Those duties will actually be absorbed by its grant duties and PCOM duties absorbed. Those will be taken over by the deputy county administrator. So basically, essentially, that position will be subsidized by the grant funding, but since the salary has to move to our department, that's where a lot of the increase comes from, actually majority of it. As well as the 2% COLA, we are trying to streamline and really try to make things more efficient in the office. So we're going to reclassify one of the positions that we have, administrative assistant, to management analyst, so that she can assist with more sort of administrative tasks and more kind of complicated tasks associated with human resources. the deputy county administrator will be focused more high-level risk management, finance duties, things like that. So a lot of the ancillary duties will be transitioned over to the management analyst that we'll have, who will also be responsible for administering and monitoring the American Rescue Plan Act funds that we have in those requests, specifically in the report, the report monitoring that's required from the Department of Treasury. And then another major budget that we oversee is the Logan Avenue Information Technology budget, which we just have really one I guess expenditure new, which would be a new projector for this boardroom essentially. And then there's actually a net decrease in that budget of 30,000. So any questions for me on the administration budget, Sherry?
I think I didn't understand. If the PCOM duties are going to be assumed by Dan, does that mean that our current PCOM part-time employee is leaving?
He is, yes. Sorry, I did not explain that correctly. Yes, sorry, yes. So he is, he will be resigning. He's actually already retired from City of Rockford, and he's done a great job for us, and I think he's just ready to finally retire. So yeah, and then we just won't backfill that and just absorb it. So
Thank you.
All right. Okay, and then so now we'll move on to animal services. Their budget is actually fairly easy, and you'll see there's a decrease of 4.5%. Let me explain all of these budgets that are non-union. At least we're assuming a 2% cost of living adjustment increase. So as right now, that's how the budgets were formulated, and that's what you see in the bottom. So a lot of the budgets that you'll see may be at least 2% increase, and a lot of that's due just to the COLA. Animal services, they have a desire to retool their building and maintenance fund. And right now, what we've kind of thought of is that fund kind of sort of limits you in certain ways. So we'd like to retool that and call it more of a capital improvement fund. It brings in a good portion of money, and they'll be able to utilize those funds for their building. For instance, the capital request that they have is upgrading their HVAC system, and so kind of retooling that fund will allow them to purchase that equipment. That fund does pretty well, and they have a good fund balance in there to do those sorts of things. Sherry?
I hate to be a broken record. Come on, you guys, but I'll ask Rick, are you telling me that air conditioning or that HVAC needs to be upgraded or fixed already?
That's what Ted Seeley has advised, ma'am. I guess the reason for that is because the high humidity in the two different dog boards from sanitizing the kennels twice a day exposes those HVAC units to a lot higher humidity than a unit would in any other type of environment. So it wears the equipment much quicker.
And this is what we got because we hired an architect that specialized in building kennels. I'd hate to think what it was like if we didn't have him.
Well, I can't comment.
Pardon me.
Because I wasn't here then.
No, I'm not. I'm just.
Has started a quarterly inspection and maintenance program on the equipment to try to stretch it out as long as possible. But I was advised by Mr. Catlin in conversations previously that the grant money the county received, the American Recovery Act funds or whatever, stuff like this is an acceptable use of those dollars. And so our intention was to use some of that money to try to fund this thing. We do have a fairly significant amount of money in that fund. I've just gotten the numbers just the last few days, and there's around $51,000 in the building and maintenance fund right now. And just so you get an idea of how much of our total revenue goes into that fund, 1 year ago, there was $21,000 in it. Around 14% of all of our revenue that's not donated revenue goes into the building and maintenance fund. So it's a pretty significant amount of money, like Mr. Catlin said, that goes into a fund that really constrains what you can spend that money on.
Just along the lines of Vice Chair Gieske, and I'm 100% with her. Wow. The
I
fact,
thought the same thing.
have they got any recommendations? There's got to be a way that we can mitigate that humidity to help prevent it from just tearing up that system. And there's got to be something, some way to do that.
So what Ted's told, I haven't been up on the roof. Ted's told me that the issue is eventually the heat exchanger is going to rust through. And when that happens, then carbon monoxide gets blown through the HVAC system and all the animals that are in there are kind of exposed to carbon monoxide.
Well, and so when we replace that, I mean, obviously it needs to be fixed, but is there another piece of equipment? Maybe it's an air exchanger that we can, some way to help mitigate that.
And I'll talk to Mr. Seeley about that and see if he would have any idea whether
Make
an industrial dehumidifier.
Something, there's got to be something, because, I mean, large facilities that have high humidity type requirements aren't going to just let their ventilation system rust out every 5 years and replace it.
I'll contact them in the morning and I'll get back with you.
Awesome. Thanks.
Compare it to a place that has indoor pools, whatever the YMCA has, or Peak Fitness or something like that, because I'm willing to guess they have something that probably similar with all the humidity. Sure, Jarhead. Go ahead, sure.
Please know that my snarkiness is not aimed at you.
Oh, I knew that.
Okay.
I wasn't around when those decisions were made.
Yeah, well, maybe things would have been different if you'd been on, but let's not go there. Anyhow, I'm a little testy about it. You have no idea.
I was shocked when Ted and I had that conversation
Yeah.
earlier this year when he said that HVAC unit was going to have to be replaced sometime within the next couple of years. I was shocked.
And just so you know,
Knowing how new the building was.
from my experience with the architect, there is not one iota of a chance that we can get anything back out of him.
He's in the Caribbean right now.
Yeah, he's in the North Woods or somewhere. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Rick.
Kevin.
So we'll move on to assessments. There are some changes here and some capital improvement requests. Notably, going back to 2021, just to highlight too, obviously we hired a new supervisor of assessments. We also hired 2 new deputy assessors. And really to highlight again that Jessica was able to sort of work with those townships and their assessments and their assessment officers to kind of consolidate our software programs to really save on expenditures there and streamline things there. For 2022, there's an idea the supervisor of assessments also manages the board of review budget, and those members are compensated at $6,200 or $6,200 a year. There's an idea to reduce their compensation to $5,000. There's also an idea to add an alternate member just to make things more efficient there in case there's a member that can't make a meeting. There's also 2 capital requests. One is to paint and repair office walls. I don't know if any board members have had a chance to stop into their office, but it's kind of beat up. So there's a idea to do that. And then their carpet is really deteriorated in there too. So we have the quotes for those, and that's where we are there. Even with, or I guess excluding those capital requests, our budget is about it's a 2.4% increase. And we can stand by for any questions for assessments. Jessica's here in the audience to answer questions, so.
Of course. So Jess, was your rationale for reducing the per member salary so you could add that alternate without increasing expenses, sort of?
Decreasing the board of review member salary was just something that, when the board of review salary, statutorily, members of the board of review have to be paid an annual salary. That's written into the property tax code, even though it would make more sense for a board that met erratically, usually only for a couple of weeks in a certain season, it would make sense for them to be paid similarly and compensated similarly to the way you are with the per diem. So that it would be commensurate to the amount of work that they do. They are paid year round. And because of that, I think that the reason that we talked about maybe adjusting that salary is because of the nature of the work they do and the role that they have in our county. I don't think there was ever an intention for them to be swept into these COLA increases that keep occurring, right?
I get it.
Which is what's been happening.
Oh,
So like,
okay,
so
okay, got it.
the space they occupy isn't the same as an employee of the county, and I think it's probably just an issue of the payroll software that we use, that they're just, their category is a certain way. And they were just sort of swept into these increases, where I don't think the intention was ever to let the salary get to the point where it is. So the conversation around that was that let's stabilize it and let's try to categorize it a little differently so that it isn't receiving these kinds of increases that really are designed for people who are, regular employees of the county and rely on those types of increases. Nobody on the Board of Review does that for the money, but they do need to be compensated for the work that they do. The alternate member, in the property tax code, an alternate member, a county board can by referendum declare that they would like to have an alternate member. That actually, the information on the board is not actually correct. The alternate member can be paid a per diem and is not, so they can only be paid when they're used.
Okay.
Which is, and they're also not subject to the kinds of political delineations that you would need to with the regular Board of Review makeup, right? So the Board of Review is comprised of 2 members who are of the party with the most votes cast, or I think that's how it reads. So our board consists of 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. If our voting balance ever changes, the Board of Review makeup would need to change with it. The alternate member does not have to, is not subject to any criteria of political affiliation and can be paid a per diem. So there's no downside to having one around.
Right. Perfect.
And also it helps us bring other people into the process, and, when Board of Review members just don't feel like it, they can just not show up.
And this loss of enormous income has been discussed. We aren't going to lose any Board of Review people, are we?
I don't know.
Because we do this?
I don't know. Judy and I discussed this. Judy Schabacher is the chairman of the Board of Review and has been for quite a while. She would prefer that we just stabilize the salary, or she just, because she didn't want to, she herself, like, she doesn't do this for the money either. She thought that just as a courtesy to the other board members, that it would be better to just stabilize it and just take it off the COLA schedule.
Okay.
When we discussed it. But I don't think that she's opposed to a reduction.
No, I mean, so you have discussed it with.
We have, absolutely.
Okay.
While the Board of Review is sort of under my umbrella, they are a separate entity. And Judy Schabacher is the chair of that board.
Right. Thank you.
And the other thing that I would say is that, I'm just gonna raise my hand real quick and take credit for the decrease in the IT budget. I think a significant part of that $30,000 reduction in their budget is directly related to the software changes that we made in the assessment office.
Nice job, kiddo.
Great. All right, so building department, really no changes there. Remember, they did implement a new cloud-based building permit solution, Cloud Permit. That was free for the first year, but we will have to begin paying for that in 2022. So the increase, a large portion of that increase, which is around $4,800 is due to the software maintenance, which is their Cloud Permit software, which is $10,000 a year. And I believe we'll have to start paying for that in April 2022. So Drew has said that software has worked fantastically, and all of the customers love it. So we're just working on some reporting things. Jeff Carlisle's been helping us out with that, and I know that he's worked with Cloud Permit IT technical resources there. So we're trying to just streamline those and make sure they're meaningful. But other than that, they are maintaining a kind of a flat budget there. So we'll take any questions on that if there's any. All right.
When this comes back this week, could we just have that extra amount in that column there? Did you say 4,000? What was it?
It should be like $4,800 because I think they're paying about, it's like 62 something now. So, yeah, we can put that in there. Actually, I guess it'd be 3,800. The circuit clerk, really, there wasn't a whole lot of changes there in 2021 though. For this year, she also had to do a lot of courtroom modernization to mitigate the spread of the virus. So she worked with the judges and the 17th Circuit to do a lot of those improvements and to complete those. And she also received minor cures reimbursement for some of those projects. Unfortunately, a lot of that money ran out because we claimed public safety payroll, and that kind of ate up all the money there. For the 2022 request, the circuit clerk actually, in previous budgets, including 2021, there's typically from funds that the circuit clerk actually controls. There's money that is transferred to the general fund. There's been a significant rollback on that. She would like to rebuild some of her fund balance in those funds that she controls, automation funds, things like that. So that's where a little bit of the increase comes from. And then there is a capital request of $25,000 for a backup generator for the courthouse. So can I entertain any questions for circuit clerk?
Yeah. I would have thought the whole building would have had a backup generator one time and why would she, is there something separate that she needs out of that? Because didn't we not buy a generator for that?
No, it doesn't have one.
The courthouse doesn't have a generator.
Just.
I believe the PSB does, but that's a different building. Yeah. So the courthouse, from what I understand, our maintenance lead or supervisor, told us that they don't have one. So
for the entire building, I would suggest the entire building.
Right. Yeah. This would be for the entire courthouse. Yep. The generator would be.
Yeah, I could see so she wouldn't have to take a whole bite.
No. But the capital request originated with her. But yes, it would be for the yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Carl. Yeah.
This cost of $25,000 for a backup generator, that's not gonna power the whole courthouse. Not $25,000.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So you're talking a generator, you're gonna have to spend $150,000 to $250,000 for a generator to do the whole courthouse. So I guess if we were a sewer plant or a water plant or the jail or, I would even say more animal services that, to have a backup generator to power the things to keep, the inmates comfortable or keep the water flowing or things like that. If power goes out at the courthouse, it's gonna send everybody home for the day. So the chances that we're gonna be out of power for weeks at a time are probably pretty slim. It's probably gonna be hours typically. So I would not be anxious to spend a bunch of money to get a generator, backup generator for the courthouse. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there really is a true necessity there, but $25,000 isn't gonna be a backup generator for the whole building, not a chance. You're gonna need a big diesel generator that's gonna be expensive. Sheriff, how much did we pay for the one for the jail? We just bought?
A lot.
It was 150, 200,000, was it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, in all fairness, this number may have been thrown out there before we actually got bids on that because Carl's right, it's substantially greater than that. Yeah. And I will say, as far as the courthouse, we have 4 different courthouses or courtrooms up there. Everything's electronic. So the backup generator, I think, honestly, I'm kind of shocked that we've never had a generator in the courthouse, but I think it would be essential in the future for future planning.
Why so?
Because
could I add something?
Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
The reason the request came up was because we have these additional funds that we got from the federal government, and I think I thought thought behind that was our operations have changed drastically at the courthouse. If the power went out before, right, we have some, went out during the daytime, you can open some doors, you can get some light in there, you can keep court going. But all of our courtrooms at this point are what they call hybrid. So you have people are there virtually. Everything that happens in the courts, parts of it are all virtual. And if our power goes out at this point, we have nothing. You know, you can't keep anything. You can't maintain court or keep anything going. And I thought that some of the intent of this extra money was to be able to support some of the changes and things that are going to be needed going forward. And I think this is probably, I was shocked when I saw the 25,000. I was expecting something more between 100, 150, and you're saying even more. But I thought that was a very good one-time use for one-time money that's coming in to try to support the county. So we don't have to pull this out of our regular budget. I was expecting that to be coming out of that ARP money. So that was the thought behind it.
Mr. Chairman?
I can understand that, seeing the money there and the desire to use it and try and do things, but I think it's still incumbent upon us to use it wisely. And I would still argue that it's not necessarily a wise use of funds. Buying a generator like that is something that's, court is necessary, but it's not a necessity if it's shut down for a day. If the power at the PSB goes out, then we've got issues because we've got prisoners. You have to have ventilation. You have to have all those kinds of things in order to keep people safe, keep them in their confined areas, things like that. So that's a necessity. If you have power goes out at a water plant, you know, at the water tower, then you've got to be able to pump the water to fill the water mains to get water to people's houses. That's a necessity. I would still argue if power goes out at the courthouse, each office can have battery backups to keep their computers and things like that able to store stuff. But I can't see spending $200,000 for a backup generator for the courthouse. It doesn't make sense to me.
I'm not actually real surprised that the court is not getting much consideration. I have found over the last year or so, the courts have not gotten a lot of support from the county to the idea of keeping justice accessible and running for orders of protection and for criminal things that have to be done is not apparently a really high item with the county. So I understand your decision.
Jeff Carlisle.
I think it might be an opportunity to look at supporting that building, not just with a generator, but maybe some, as she said, there's a hybrid situation that we could also use. We got property next door, we could even put possibly solar. I mean, put some type of turbine up there to generate battery power to work. So we don't have to have, if electric goes down, you have a hybrid of activity there. So I think it's something at least to look at.
My question would be, if something happened that the power went out on a normal day, would you still hold court while using the backup generator? When a storm came through or something blew a transformer? That is what I think Carl's getting at when he says it's a necessity. I have a hard time believing people are going to stay at work or go as normal day as planned when the generator kicks in and operate. But I could be wrong as well. And I don't think anybody's trying to negate the court system by any means in our county. So.
It's very important when somebody needs an order of protection, when you're trying to work through court because of serious and important issues with a family or with property things or criminal things. And because we are now a hybrid court, as soon as the power goes, the rest of the court cannot keep on because the people that are there appearing virtually and depending on that for their access to justice won't be able to be there. So it will stop the court in its tracks. for that day or however long it's down.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carrie Poirier, the public defender, and I've been in the courthouse when the power has gone out, and I had a 13-year-old sitting in custody, and he's in the dark all of a sudden. We had to go to court because he had to have a hearing within 36 hours, or he would be released. So there are emergency things that do happen that power outages have, in my experience being there for 23 years, that power outages have caused disruptions and problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sheriff.
I would only say when it comes to the capital improvements is I really appreciate, Kevin actually doing capital improvements, which is something since I've been here, we really haven't experienced, long-term planning. We've given a 5-year plan for the last 10 years and nothing really has been acted on it. And some of that is because obviously the county hasn't had the funds. So I think when I will speak for our budget, we have a ton of capital improvements. These are long-term plans that we prioritize as we go along. I don't think any department, well, I'll speak for my own department, which has the most budgets, is the fact that it's a priority list. This is kind of just preparing the board. These are what we think are long-term. And when we turn these in, there were dates on there and kind of prioritized for us. Now, some of these can change clearly in a second. If something breaks, well, then our priority changes. So I think with the courthouse, it may be a necessity, but I think when we get to that point where we're actually requesting that purchase, we will have an actual documented, this is why we believe it's necessary. So a lot of these capital improvements that you'll see coming up in my budget, there's a whole list of things that we've put in there for 10 years, again, just to prepare. And if the funds come along, it's nice to see what we're going to spend that money on. So we're not just always waiting for things to break before we spend the money. So I think when I look over, and I don't want to speak for Kevin because he designed this, but I think a lot of it is you're going to see these. It doesn't mean that we're expecting this all to be spent, this year. These are really just to kind of prepare the board. So I don't want to get too far into it. We're gonna spend all night here dissecting capital improvements for every single budget, which realistically is not realistic. We will sell when we absolutely need these projects.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And the sheriff is correct because, so what the board is seeing tonight are just the requests that as they've come in, that they aren't the actual recommended budget. So just keep that in mind. It's really to, put everyone in the mindset and just keep in the back of your mind of these items and in the requests so that we can consider moving forward. So thank you, Chair, for that. We'll move on to the county clerk and recorder.
Evan? Bill has a question.
I'm sorry.
I just wanted to inject one comment.
Yes.
Probably 80% of the locks in that building are electric. Now, my question is, I didn't install the electrics, but are they fail safe or fail secure? And is the building unlocked when we don't have any power? Or is it secure? And if it is secure and people are coming in on cards and don't have any keys, how are they going to get in the building? Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. So the county clerk and recorder's budget, this year they received some grant funding to add cameras and door access management to this building. So that was a good project, and we leveraged some general fund money with that as well. But other than that, for 2021, there wasn't really an increase. For 2022, there is a potential for a longtime staffer in the county clerk's office to retire. So she's proposed to hire an additional FTE in anticipation of that. It could potentially be a part-time position, but they would assist with elections and recording duties, things like that, and then potentially take over that. And then if that individual does retire, what we would do is obviously reevaluate if we do need another full-time FTE in that department. As far as a capital request, there's a pretty large capital request to digitize all land records for $177,000. And that the idea is that in a pandemic situation again, individuals in the community could search those land records digitally. And that's the quote that we received from a vendor in that space. So I know Julie's on the line if there's any questions for the county clerk and recorder's request. And then just lastly, obviously, the 6.5% increase on this request is mostly due to that additional ask for the one full-time individual. All right. The coroner, who was here earlier, really no new initiatives for 2021. They do a good job. What we look at for 2022 is a 2% increase in COLA. A little bit of their budget increase is due to laboratory fees when they send samples out. A lot of the drugs that people consume are laced with fentanyl, and that costs more money to run. So she's seeing a pretty significant increase in laboratory fees. So that line item has to increase. And then the coroner's office hasn't had, like the sheriff has disclosed, like any capital improvements ever. I was quite perplexed to find out that they're like strolling around in a minivan, actually picking up people that have passed away, which is, it's kind of crazy, to be honest. And they don't even have an automatic lift. So I don't know if people know how when you're, anyway, people actually tend to weigh even more, it feels like, when they're not living. So they're lifting these individuals into a minivan, which is it's just not a good look. Anyway, so we're looking at a capital request to buy a new vehicle. We could even go with something used, so we're looking at options there. But the prices that you see here are for the new vehicle is actually for a new vehicle, but we could potentially get a used professional looking van, and then the new lift equipment for the vehicle, which that price is actually for it is for used equipment actually, but it's like new. So large capital improvement there, or capital requests nonetheless. And then, like I said, a little bit of the budget's due to the laboratory fees increase. So I can take any questions on that. Jeff?
Yeah, was the coroner's fee structure part of our increases a couple of years ago? I'm trying to remember if they were or not.
I
guess I'm not.
I don't think so. What, Dan? No.
Jessica?
I'm sorry, I remember what it was.
Oh.
The increase in the hourly wage that she.
That's right.
pays the
$2.
people.
Oh, yeah.
$2 an hour.
They're not raising the wages of she pays the people that.
Take the minivan out.
Yep.
Yeah, so it wasn't fees and stuff, so maybe that's an option that we could address, the fees.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jessica, that is right.
Good job.
All right. Thank you. The health department, like I said, they obviously health department has their own board, so they prepare a budget. Really what we're concerned about on the county side is the levy request, to be honest. And they didn't request any levy increase. I will just note, obviously, as everyone has heard, Amanda and some board members, discuss, they've, obviously have done a great job, with, during the pandemic and trying to mitigate COVID and really inform our residents and keep everyone safe. So that's really what they've been focused on. And then that core grant as well with behavioral health and mental health and just those community resources. So just to inform the board, there is an overall decrease in their budget. However, that budget is recommended from the Board of Health to the county board, which the county board will approve. And it's about a 32.2% increase. A large portion of that is due to the fact that the core grant is being managed more properly. A lot of the funding for that grant was actually kind of accounted for incorrectly, so now it's being accounted for correctly. So a large portion is due to that, but they did end up decreasing their budget nonetheless. So I believe Amanda's on the phone if there's any questions for public health. All right. So highway, So a lot of the projects, obviously Justin's department does a ton of road improvements, bridge construction, road construction. So, some of the notable ones for 2021, which were a little bit of them were in 2020 with the Ken Ternary Bridge, Lawrence Poplar Grove Road, and then various mill and overlay projects, along with just the continuing partnerships we have with the townships. For 2022, as discussed, there's about a 16,500 increase asked to increase the highway and bridge levies. So we note that there, and that's why I said previously that we would see an increase asked for that, which is definitely appropriate. It's a good request there. They have some increases in vehicle and equipment maintenance. The fleet continues to obviously just get older and age. So, we see that vehicle equipment maintenance and vehicle repairs kind of go up as that happens. But the budget does ask for and request some vehicle replacements. In the budget, Justin has prepared for some bridge replacements, Poplar Grove Road over Beaver Creek, Woodstock Road, and some others. And then for the MFT funds, 3/4 inch mill and overlay of Genoa Road, south of I-90, Garden Prairie Road, and Poplar Grove Road. So overall increase of 11.9%. That obviously all of Justin's staffs besides Justin are union, so that's their union contract I believe is a little higher actually on the increase. I think it's might be 2.5% if I'm not mistaken. So a little bit of that and the vehicle and equipment maintenance. And then I can move on to their capital. What we have a request for is a new grader and loader for $499,000, an I-fiber connection. I've been working on that with I-fiber, and right now it's anticipated to be around $70,000. New building foundation work, which has some contingency in there, $125,000, a new generator, $25,000. And any questions on highway at all? Justin's here to answer those. All right. Everyone's getting up easy. All right. So for GIS, nothing really, new and groundbreaking in 2021 besides the fact that we did embark on an unplanned expenditure to update our GIS maps. So we partnered, R1PC engaged us with Winnebago County. They were doing new flyovers for Winnebago County and wanted to include us. So we had some cost savings there. So that was new for 2021. So the increase in professionals line item for 2022, we anticipate the second half of that funding to be billed in the 2022 fiscal year. So that's where we see some of that. And then some of their capital request is actually splitting some of the costs of the new carpet and paint with the assessments office, because the GIS specialist sits over there in the assessments office. So we would likely leverage some of the GIS fund for the carpet and paint replacement. So, but an overall decrease of 23.4% for that budget. All right. So like I said, we do have the grants that are listed in the budget, and those would be CASA, Growth Dimensions, the Soil and Water Conservation District, and then again, the Veterans Affairs Commission. Like I said, for Veterans Affairs, that is mainly just their lease and their utilities. We have to house them. So a thought that the chairman and I have discussed is trying to find a space for them in one of our buildings somewhere, because this is, it's costing us, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000 a year to house the Veterans Affairs Commission. If anyone doesn't know, they have two staff members, Bob Ryder and then his deputy. Elizabeth. So they're there, and I'm sure they'd be more than willing to move wherever we want them to move. But that could save general fund money if we did that. Soil and water, we will be working on. Justin has spearheaded an idea to kind of hold them accountable to some sort of performance metrics and tasks associated with what we are providing them with. So there's an IGA, intergovernmental agreement that was drafted. Tricia's reviewed it. Planning will review it. I'll review it. And then the Soil and Water District, or Soil and Water Conservation District will review it to sort of codify what their responsibilities are in return for giving them this $20,000 that hasn't been in place previously. Growth Dimensions did request $30,000. They did send a letter in, which is in the correspondence line in the agenda that actually asked for 10,000 more than that, so $40,000 request. This was prepared before I got the letter. So anyway, that's that request. And then CASA, they wanted to stay flat, and they do a great job too for the community, 25,000. I did reach out to all of these grant, I guess I call them grant community partners, and they did provide me with tons of performance. I asked them for a lot of information to kind of justify why they're asking for what they're asking for. So I can certainly share that with the board if requested. So any questions on that?
Chairman?
Just a question on the CASA. Didn't we, Jeff, you might remember this for sure. Didn't we put a fee on court systems or something that went to CASA?
Yeah, that got changed. Linda reported on that because that went away and it got changed. Linda was very ahead of that game, and it got changed in the courts to another
fee, that's right. Okay. No, just curious. Thanks.
Yes.
And I would like to see the metrics that have been submitted by Growth Dimensions. I want to know what their ROI is for the 30,000 in real dollars.
Mm-hmm. I will send that out to the board. I do have it, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're smiling.
Well, yeah, so I'll PDF it and send it out to the board.
Yeah, and to you, send to every board member, because I'm extremely interested in the backside of the information on a lot of these projects we have not done or haven't gotten. I'd like to see the backside, because I'd like to build on, maybe if we find something that's failed, maybe we together as a business group, we could change things.
All right. Planning. So, in 2021, that budget was kept flat. Izzy does an incredible job, as you know. And again, honestly, for 2022, just with the exception of COLA, flat budget. Planning oversees the Planning Commission and ZBA as well. ZBA receives a stipend. There's no increase for that either. So really flat budget. The increase is just ancillary due to COLA increase. So that was the request there. Probably in the future with planning, I know when I first started, I spoke with Izzy. We'll likely embark in the future on a new comprehensive plan, zoning ordinance, things like that. So that'll cost money. But for the next fiscal year in 2022, we're not looking at that right now. So, all right, we'll move on to probation. They have an increase in their equipment maintenance line item, but it's pretty ancillary, and that's why the dollar amount isn't on there. As you can see, the total budget is increased 0.4%, which is mainly, honestly, a lot. The 2% at least is due to the COLA. If the board doesn't know, some of the salaries are actually reimbursed by the state. They have 8 probation officers, so 4 are fully reimbursed by the administrative. I don't forget what the AIOC stands for.
Administrative Office of Illinois Courts.
Okay, so I actually the acronym backwards. That's why I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so it's AOIC. I'll correct that. So they're fully reimbursed, 4 of them, and then 2 are partially funded by the AOIC. 1 is funded by a state grant, and then 1 officer is fully funded by the county. So we get off, we actually have a pretty good deal on that for the work that they do for the community. They do have 2 capital requests, computer replacement, which is essential. We want to make sure they have the updated technology to complete the work in the office. And then they have 2 vehicle replacements, 1 Ford Explorer and then 1 Ford Fusion. And those would be the prices. So that total price of 70,000 is for 2 vehicles. Any questions for Amy on probation?
Just a quick, if I might.
Oh, yeah, please.
Quick one, I should have asked Amy before. Are these the number of employees, is that impacted by the eliminate or the transfer of the pre-trial duties? I meant to ask you that before.
That will affect our number of employees.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
One of our fully funded employees, that will affect our pretrial department.
Okay.
She is one of the fully funded people from the administrative office.
And I guess it's getting late, so I'll just ask you straight out. Is this a good thing or a bad thing that this is going somewhere else? I have my opinion, but I don't know anything.
It was found that there was a need for a more efficient system that was run for pretrial. We were hopeful that we could keep it local. I know our chief judge was very instrumental in presenting a plan to the administrative office, which is the Illinois Supreme Court. Really, it was presented to Illinois Supreme Court for a plan to keep it local. And it didn't fulfill the requirements for that to happen. So it's going to be taken from the county level and then supervised by the state. That is what I'm talking about was in my.
Yeah, I meant to
monthly-
ask before.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But you rang my chimes when I'm looking at, the number of employees. Will there be a way to take that person and repurpose that person?
The individuals that are hired as pretrial officers now in the state of Illinois, they can certainly apply for the positions that is going to be run by the state. So AIC is still going to run pretrial. It will just be under a new umbrella. And maybe Tom do you have any input on that, Tom?
The announcement on the Supreme Court's decision to take over pretrial we got the announcement 2 weeks ago. We've had a couple of trainings on it. I think a lot of things are still in the works right now. What's going to happen with employees? What's going to happen with pensions? These are all questions that we're trying to decide right now. I simply don't have the answers because we're trying to figure it out ourselves right now. But we know that the state is going to be taking over pretrial. Hopefully our officers, or I know our officers are great and hopefully they apply. And the state's going to want our employees. But right now it's just for our pretrial officers.
And I didn't mean to put any of you on the spot, but anytime Big Brother takes over and centralizes stuff, it always worries me. Somehow I think things at the ground level seem to operate better. So thank you, and let's cross our fingers.
We'll make sure to keep you informed as we learn ourselves.
Thanks, Tom. And Amy?
All right. So we'll move on to public defender. That budget remained pretty flat too. We anticipate a 2% COLA. The public defender's salary is subsidized by the state. We've had that on the agenda, I think, probably a month or two ago. So I know the county board is probably familiar with that. And then a capital request for 4 new computers as well, $4,000. A lot of times it's usually less than that. Our IT department tries to find the best deal. So but this is just a ballpark. So
That's not necessarily next year.
Yeah.
Over the next 5 years.
For the next 5.
We'll need some computer help.
Yeah. So other than that, public defender's budget is pretty easy. So any questions for Carrie at all? All right, we're almost done. Sheriff's office. Sheriff's has 5 budgets basically. So it's Sheriff's Corrections, County Buildings, Emergency Management, and the PSB. PSB is split 50-50 with City of Belvedere. They also manage IT, but they're kind of dispersed throughout a lot of budgets. So, but the money there and the management of or the personnel report under the sheriff. So they tried to maintain a 0 increase for 2021. 2022, You can see just the total overall, it's a net decrease of 0.7%. Do keep in mind, and we have in the back of our minds too, we will have the corrections contract here coming up probably any day now. And then, so, we have to, see where that goes. So it could be a little bit of an increase, who knows? We'll see where that takes us. For the sheriff's budget, which are your patrol deputies, they will see a increase. We'll see that increase in the sheriff's budget for training new hires. They're understaffed or short staffed right now, so he anticipates that they will have to hire more staff. Corrections, same thing. I'm not sure why it seems like, anyway, that same line should have been there, training increase. County buildings will be an increase in property maintenance. They want to get some of that done in a major, or I guess a focal point with some seal coating. Emergency Management Agency, really no increase there, and their salaries are actually reimbursed 50% from the state, Illinois Emergency Management Agency. And PSB, just due to aging of the building, some increase in maintenance line items associated with that. Where it gets fun is in their capital. So the sheriff, we this year we were able to utilize some of the CURES funding to buy 4 new patrol vehicles. The sheriff then leveraged some of the funding that he controls, those accounts, to buy 2 additional Ford SUVs, Explorers. So they were able to do that. So he is asking for an additional 4 again, as we have an aging fleet. I'm sure board members, you've seen the extremely old Chevy Impalas they've been driving, which is unreal. So anyway, that's the ask there. For corrections, they're looking for to, just due to the age of the building as well, upgrading the jail controls. Those are becoming obsolete, so they need to update the jail controls, which are software mechanisms, things of that sort. HVAC replacement, we just replaced one of the HVAC units, but they have seems like 10 billion units over there. So we have to replace another, and we want to get that on a rotating schedule. Water softener, extremely important for the pipes over there. And that needs to be replaced. It's probably very old as well. And then a kitchen makeup heat air unit, $18,000 for that. Emergency Management Agency, there's an idea that our Emergency Operations Center is not sufficient enough. So Dan Zachard there would like to commission a study to then leverage some funding from the state, a state grant, to either outfit our current Emergency Operations Center more sufficiently, or build a new building or something of the sort. So that there's an idea for that, $20,000. Water rescue suits, which would likely honestly just increase one of their line items. They buy rescue suits out of there anyway. But that's $1,800 nonetheless. And then laptops for the emergency management vehicles. The PSB, which again, as stated, Belvedere reimburses us 50% for that, but we manage the building. Air handler replacements, that building is again aging, and that equipment on that is very old. Flat roof replacement. They've have had leaks throughout the year, so get some of that repaired. Iron pipe replacement, and then the big number there, which obviously it's just something to keep on the radar. Expand and renovate the PSP, $16 million. So anyway, so that's on there. So
you can get dynamite a lot cheaper than $60. So
I agree. Yeah. So, but it's good to keep on the radar, and that's something honestly that the county board and Belvedere City Council need to engage each other on, so that both sides are on the same page and can coordinate and really see that project through. So, but that's why it's on here, and just to keep it fresh in everyone's mind. So, any questions for the sheriff? All right. Oh geez.
You forgot his other.
His
his
budget
third
never,
page.
his
Yeah.
budget never ends. I'm so sorry. Yeah, so county buildings is the, is the other
We do
budget.
this on a next
Oh my
week.
goodness.
This is
Yeah.
this is where it gets expensive.
Yeah, no kidding. So. So the courthouse, tuck point, which honestly, I have no idea. I assume that has something to do with the roof. I know they've had.
Brick.
Oh, brick. Oh, geez. Okay.
Come on, Kevin.
I have no idea what that is.
Mortar.
So that needs to be repaired, $100,000. Handrail, for parking lot steps, that needs to be replaced, ADA, requirements. So that's like actually a necessity. We need to do that. There's carpet replacement in the courtroom, sidewalk repairs, which I think we were sued on that once and we got some sidewalk repaired out in front of the courthouse. AC condensers and coils and some asbestos roof shingles, knock those out and get that replaced. So, go ahead, Carl.
I really hesitate to ask this question, but Sheriff, is the roof still leaking in all the courtrooms?
I think we've gotten rid of about 12 buckets. I think we're down to maybe 2 now.
I thought your answer was gonna be, is it raining?
So that's progress.
Progress, well, there you go.
There are so many roofs over there, so many additions over there. We keep replacing as we go along. So it's much better than it ever has been.
Do we at least have new buckets? I mean, to make it, seem like we're.
Actually, one of the offices started leaking and somebody forgot that there was actually a bucket up there. So it was really doing a good job of catching water and it had caught water probably for the full year. Nobody had emptied it, so.
I don't even know what to say.
Buckets are cheap.
Yeah.
How big are those buckets?
Trash can.
5 gallons.
Okay, good. Manageable.
So yeah, so all that's on there and we'll see how we can leverage funding to satisfy some of these. We only have two more left on. State's attorney, really a minuscule increase, net decrease in our overall budget, but then the increase, the 0.1% is really due to the 2% increase in COLA. And again, the state's attorney salary is, most of that is reimbursed by the state too. So I know Tricia's online. If there's any questions particular for Tricia, I know she can answer. All right, and then the last one is the treasurer's budget. Really, he's seeing an increase in one of his line items just due to the postage meter increase. Postage stamps have gone up, increase in COLA, and then he's got two capital requests. One to upgrade or to install additional cameras in the building, but particular to his office. He believes that there should be cameras to sort of just watch over cash transactions and things like that in the office. And that's $4,300. We have a quote from audio engineering who did the cameras in this building and the door access. And then also the upgrade in the financial software. Unfortunately, our QuickBooks software is utilized by, pretty much every department in the county. And this is something that does need to be completed. Our current version is out of date. And so we have to upgrade in some way. We did engage IT and they said the cloud version would be the best, that would provide the best security, and it would provide us with the ability to work remotely in the event of another pandemic because it's cloud-based, so you could access it anywhere basically. So, but that'd be a $14,400 hit annually. Anyway, so that's that. And I believe the treasurer's, he has an automation fund, which we'd be able to leverage that too. So, in consultation with the treasurer. So, those are all the budgets tonight. What I plan to do next week during the finance committee meeting, we will bring this back, to do another quick pass over of the requests. I will provide the county in advance of that meeting though, with the growth dimensions, data as requested. I have that and I'll PDF that and send that out. And then we can discuss this more in depth if need be. What we plan on doing going forward, the first admin meeting in October, I plan on putting together the recommended budget. And so Obviously, all of these requests, believe it or not, cannot be, they just won't be able to be, anyway, satisfied or, I can't think of the word. Anyway, fulfill, thank you. And so, so I'll bring the recommended budget. The department heads will then again be available and we can kind of engage. So that'll be on the first administration committee in October, the finance committee. So you guys will see the recommended budget. We can go through, and then the finance committee will go through it some more. We can even do it at the board meeting. But then, I'm sorry, at the board meeting, it needs to be placed on layover. That doesn't mean that we still cannot make changes or discuss the budget. So on the first meeting in November, we can still discuss the recommended budget. For administration, finance, still discuss, make minor changes, and then full adoption November board meeting. Just so everyone's on the same page with that. So any questions on the schedule?
Well, it's not so much on the schedule, but for the purpose of presentation tonight, you put the capital requests in here.
Yes.
Is it safe for me to assume that when this budget comes out, you will have the operating budget, and over here you'll have the capital budget that will encompass all capital requests from all departments?
Exactly, yeah, that's what we plan on, yeah, yep, that is the plan, correct, yep. Any other questions on the budget? All right, so that'll close out the budget. That's all I have for that, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Moving on, 9.5 raffles. We do have 2 raffles, Apex and Blue Thunder boosters. They're signed and on the chairman's desk. 10 intergovernmental reports and updates, landfill.
Nothing further this evening on that.
Moving right along to 11, informational items and other business. Correspondence.
Just that letter that's in there from Growth Dimensions. Like I said, I'll send the additional details and their metrics though to the county board.
Go ahead.
There's supposed to be an enclosure with the memo, and there was no enclosure. That might,
There's no, yeah, I saw.
or is it there now?
No.
No, okay, there was no enclosure.
Oh, that's weird. It's showing.
With what, Growth Dimensions, or?
Yeah, it's showing on.
Oh, it does.
I've got the letter. I've got the letter here. Yeah,
Okay.
it's on mine.
It takes a while to pop up, Sherry.
What's going on?
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Ask it nicely.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's one, I'm sorry, Mr. 1 second. There's another thing I was going on. Oh, yes, I just reminded myself. So next week, the reason why the finance committee is moving to Tuesday again is so that we can, as some of us can attend the reception from Ken Tiernoni. He's going to receive that ILCMA Lifetime Achievement Award. I know that the board chairman's going to attend, the deputy county administrator and I are going to attend, the treasurer will attend, and I just need to know by tomorrow if any other board member wants to attend that. It is next Thursday evening at 6:00 p.m. in Galena. So probably not ideal on location and time nonetheless, but if you do want to attend, I just need to know by tomorrow so that we can pay for the meal. It's $57. So, Mr. Chairman?
I'll probably be going and coming back, so if somebody wants to ride, I'd be happy to drive.
All right, anything else?
Anyway, yeah, just let me know by tomorrow. Yeah, that's it for that. So.
Okay. UCCI advocacy groups, anything with that?
Nothing this evening, no.
Okay. Our favorite part, reapportionment,
So
11.3.
So this evening, just an update on reapportionment. I know that Trisha's on the line as well, and maybe Julie's still on. But tonight, the plan is, and we can do this next week as well, but the plan is the census data has come out. The GIS specialist is working on the maps to get those as close as possible. So I believe those should be completed towards the end of this month. So by the first meeting in October, the administration committee, the county board can start engaging the actual map. What we hope to do tonight, tomorrow, and even at the board meeting this month for September is to discuss the last issue, which is how we elect the county board chairman. Either the county board elects the chairman or it just goes to the voters. So that's basically the main topic tonight, is to discuss how the board would like to do that. It could be resolved tonight or it can continue for the rest of the month, but nonetheless, the county board should ensue a discussion on that, so.
And I will open the floor for discussion on that. Anybody have any comments on, I guess we can start by discussing the chairman's position.
I don't see any reason to change what's worked for the county for many, many years.
Mr. Schubacher?
Yeah, I've only been on for a short time, but I think we as a body here, I would think we would know individual, our group here that we'd want to hold in respect and acknowledge. That is, work with all of us to some degree. So I think it should be picked by the board, not the public. And I don't know if I say this correctly, but who knows that person better than we do? And we should be able to have the confidence to do that and the wherewithal to appoint we represent the public. And it's just, I'm not getting a soapbox, but we can't pick our own board chairman. I think we're doing not a very good job. Anyway, that's my thoughts.
Thank you. My 2 cents on it real quick is we are elected as the people and trusted as the people to represent our districts. Part of that job is to appoint those heads within our board. If you look at statistics and how many counties throughout our state are elected by the people as a chairman, you'll see a vast difference in size. We're not that size. We should be trusted by the people who elect us as one of our duties. And I feel like my personal opinion is we should probably do that. As Steve Schubacher said, who knows, we work together, okay? If we felt Dave Wiltsey was the best man for that job, we would put our heads together and we would elect Dave Wiltsey as that person.
Please.
Or Chairman Johnson. But I firmly believe that when we are elected as a people, that is one of our duties, and I think it's a proud duty that we have, or task. And I would vote in favor of allowing the county board to appoint that position. Dave Wiltsey.
I agree also. I don't think we're the size of DuPage or Cook, obviously, which is 2 of the examples of at large. I think we should keep it among the board members electing a chairman. I don't want to be overly redundant, but I do not want to either take away the emphasis on this. I feel very strongly that we should keep it as elected from the members, the chairman elected from the members.
Sherry Bertel.
Yes, I would like to know how many members here in this board right now actually go out and talk to the people within your area to actually get a feeling of how they feel about how we elect a board chairman. I have heard from numerous people over the past year that they would like to elect. That's all I can say, is I have heard from a lot of people, they would like to have the chance to elect a board chairman. And if you talk to the people, you might hear another story.
Chair Gieseke.
I'll answer your question. I represent 7 townships in this county and I go visit them every year. And I've never heard one comment from any of them that say they want to weigh in on how the chairman is elected. So I just wanted to answer your question from my perspective.
Jeff Carlisle.
I have 2 of the amount of grouped areas that we have in my district and neighborhoods that I live in, and just ask them just a simple question. Would you like to have the board review, or would you, for a chair, or would you like to elect a chair? And a lot of questions I got was, what do I got to do to elect a chair? It's very similar to an elected official. They go out, they campaign, and this is the position they want to do. Well, then they ask, so is that an additional person on the board? Yeah. And they said, so why would we want to pay for another person? That was the first thing. Why would I want to pay? They're going to get in my pocket again for taxes. Even though, you don't want to go down to that type of discussion, you want to hear what they have to say. But on the most everybody I've talked to, their expectation is somebody who comes on the board, whether it's new or it's old, when the position comes up for a vote, that people get together and talk about it. Because we do a lousy job of discussing it amongst ourselves at times. And who wants to do what and when and where, and if they want a position or don't want the position. That was also, do you guys actually do that? And I said, well, personal vetting, we know each other, but new people don't. They just don't. And I think you're going to have a bunch of new people coming up. So just kind of word to the wise, that's going to be something that they would like to know what we're doing.
Any other discussion, comments in the boardroom?
I'd just make a motion that we keep it the way it is.
I'll second.
Motion has been made by Chairman Johnson and seconded by Dave Wiltsey. Something we all in favor?
Yeah, you can just do voice.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
No.
Motion carried.
So what the plan is, what we will do with this, at this point, the county board has decided on, I think there were 4 things and I just cannot recall at the moment. It's kind of late. So anyway, what we will do is, next month is engage the county board on the maps, and then what we will do is put together a final resolution to integrate everything into one final vote to make it official. And that'll kind of be the process, but Tammy is working on that map, and then I believe even, from what I understand, board members can even introduce maps as well that they've created, and then the board can decide which map they want to adopt. So, yes, Sherry.
Just, I can't remember the 4 either, but I have a good reason. Can we just get a summary of that?
Well, we'll do that. So on the finance committee, we'll have this report and we'll upload it on there.
I know we ticked them off.
I know we were checking them off as we went on.
I can't remember.
But we'll do that, not a problem.
Thanks.
Dave Wiltsey?
Can we have the formal vote on the chairmanship thing at the September full meeting? I don't want to, I'm asking if that's going to be wrapped up in something in October. I'd rather get it done, finished.
Tricia, are you on the line still?
I am, and we can do, I think, that resolution. I'll have to look and let you know by next week. I'll let you know by the finance meeting, but just to recap, for Sherry's question, what you guys decided before was the number of
Board members, yeah.
board members.
Right.
What we just decided tonight, and how you were going to be paid and how many districts were going to be in the county.
And then my follow-up question is, in October, when we talk about the map, are we going to have a version of the map first in September?
Yes. So we plan on sending that out. We're hoping, I thought Tricia, I think Tammy she might have it done by this month's board meeting.
Okay, so you just look at it.
We've already seen we've already seen it, but she needs to get the lines a little bit closer. The population they're not close enough in terms of how the districts are formulated, so that she just needed to adjust the lines a little bit. So I believe it'll be ready by the board meeting this
And we're using that subset of the census data? There's a smaller subset.
Yeah, so Tammy, I believe, will prepare a map on the ACS data, so that'd be the 2019 ACS data, I believe. And then she's preparing a map based on the 2020 census as well.
Well,
So go ahead,
I
Tricia.
don't think she's using the ACS data. I think, and maybe Julie can correct me, I think that she was going to use the census data, but give a couple different options depending of the shift of the population, to give people a couple options, or to have you guys have an opportunity to look to see where some, I guess, where the growth in the population increased or decreased along the lines of the current districts. Julie, would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's exactly right. She's not using that other data. She's only using the census data that recently came out. She did do the one map. She is going to do 2 alternatives to that map, just because it's very intricate detail and trying to determine and getting the population as close as possible. So she's going to try and do like 3 maps like Grant did about 10 years ago. He did the same thing. And then it will be up to you to decide, or unless there's another map presented, but it will be up to you to decide which ones.
And you can use the maps as, I think, a jumping off point to give you a visual to see if you do want something different, and if Tammy can then adjust based on your suggestions regarding the population. But at least to have you guys get an idea of where the numbers are regarding the population.
So then, yeah, so we can have an updated timeline on when Tammy will actually have that completed. I believe it's supposed to be ready though by the board meeting, because we want to give the board time to review them and then come back in October to actually discuss, so, yeah.
But I just want to conclude by saying that I think we should be clear that we want the census data and no other data to be used in this analysis. That's the most reliable. That's what we've been waiting for. We finally have it. Let's use what we're supposed to use.
Yeah, she's using the census data. I've talked to her. That's what she's using.
Yeah, I agree. That is exactly what she's using.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I think we can move on. 11.4, board member comments. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to discuss or bring up tonight? Seeing none, I don't think we have any reason for executive session for once. So we would
Adjourn.
have a motion to adjourn by Dave Wilson.
8:46 p.m.
Seconded by Jonathan Van Laar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Meeting adjourned.